Yeah. For the ones building in silence. For the ones who chose growth over excuses. This is Rooted and Rising. Yeah, marathon mindset, we building for legacy. Planted in struggle, it turned into equity. Pressure applied, but it never compressing me. Storms only sharpen identity. If you feel buried, remember the strategy. Seeds in the soil grow stronger gradually. Pain got a purpose in shaping your gravity. Roots hold you down while you rise naturally. 10 toes planted, we move with intention. Grounded in growth, the elevation's the mission. Losses were lessons, not signs of submission. The climb hit different when fueled by conviction. We rooted. We rise from the dirt we shining. Pressure built the diamond. Now watch the light find us. If they ever try to bury you, remember you were planted. Deep roots never panic, we grow and expand it. Rising, rising, and rising. Grounded in truth. Growing with purpose. Built through pressure. This is the marathon mindset. Rooted and rising. Yeah. Rooted and rising. Rooted, rooted and rising. Rooted and rising. Rooted and rising. Rooted and rising. Rooted, rooted and rising. Rooted and rising. Rising, rising, rising. Rising, rising, rising.
Welcome back to Rooted and Rising, and tonight is different. Every man sitting at this table is a father. We've all built careers, we've led people, and we've earned titles. But none of that compares to being called dad. And tonight, we're talking about legacy. Not the kind engraved on plaques, not the kind mentioned at retirement ceremonies, the kind that lives in our children. And when I was diagnosed with cancer, my biggest fear wasn't death. It was, have I shown my sons everything they need to know to be better than I ever was? And I'm not just talking about in school or successful in their careers, but successful in life. That question still sits with me to this day. So tonight, no polished answers, just honest ones. And I want to start this thing off simple. When you guys hear the word legacy, what does it mean to you right now?
For me, as a father, legacy means the emotional blueprint I leave behind. So when I think about legacy, I think about my children remembering to look to me if they want to know what a loving, consistent, and safe man looks like.
Yeah, to me, legacy is everything, man. Legacy reminds me of what was my goal from the beginning once I became a father, because at some point, daddy's no longer going to be here. So my legacy is everything that I contribute to them to prepare them for life post-fatherhood. Once I'm no longer here, are they ready to be a man? Are they ready to be a woman? I have 3 girls and 1 boy. And so my legacy is very important to making sure I did everything I could to prepare them for after I'm no longer here and they no longer have access to me as a father.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel as if, both great answers. And I do agree 100% with the provision, the nurturing, the nature. Also agree that it's not what I achieved for my legacy for my kids. It's the things that I instilled in them. There's a phenomenal quote. I forgot who said it, but it's basically that your kids are the messages that you're not going to be able to send in the future. So my daughter is going to be married one day and change her last name, right? But I want her, even though she might change her last name, get married to a man, to still have those things inside of her that I have imparted upon her, and let her decide hey, either I'm moving in the right direction. My daddy allowed me to move in the right direction with the things that he taught me, and consistently stay in line with her morality and code.
I like those answers. I like that. And For me, I would say legacy is has to deal with the sacrifices I made to make sure that my kids would have a better life than I had growing up. Not saying that my life was hard, but I feel like part of being a parent is you make certain sacrifices uh, to ensure that your kids have a better upbringing than you had, right? Even if you had a good one, everybody could always be a little bit better, right? But with that being better than having a better life than I had, also to me means like uh, not just teaching them life skills, showing them what is possible, right? Like that was one of the reasons why I was so hard on myself to complete my bachelor's degree was because I wanted my sons to see that, you know, you might not be the best student or school might not come that easy to you, but if you buckle down and you put the work in, you can achieve it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And also too, there's like other things to teach them because I would, it is different for them because they're growing up in two separate houses. You know what I'm saying? So I still have to show them how to be present for their mother, even though I'm not with their mother. But there's certain things that I show them to let them know or teach them that, like, hey, this is how, as a man, you should treat a woman, right? And they also see it too with me and my wife now. But if you think about it, for a child, their parent is their first relationship they're ever in. You know what I'm saying? So how they witness their mother or their father being treated by said partner, right, is how they're going to either treat someone or allow someone to treat them. So I think saying all that is what I feel like I'm trying to leave as far as my legacy behind to my sons is how to be essentially just how to be a good person.
Absolutely. I just want to point out something that came to my mind that Quentin left. He said the word blueprint, and I'll add to that blueprint word is footprints. Once we're gone, my children, I want them to be a representation of what I, like my brother said here, instilled in them. Blueprint, footprints instilled in them. You know what I mean? It's what my children learn from me as a representation of when I'm no longer here. I want my I want the people around them to be like, oh, that's Frederick's son. That's Frederick's daughter. And she's successful or she's making decisions based off of what I instilled and imparted in her. You know what I mean? That's my legacy. Everything I did before I died is actually for my children. And when you mentioned getting your degree, I got a bachelor's degree and I got a master's degree. And I would always encourage my children, look, your daddy's just setting the standard, but I ultimately want you to be better than me. So if I can do it, you can do it as well. That's my legacy. Me teaching them and showing them, hey, your daddy did this because he believes you can be better than him.
So before we talk about what we're building, what did we inherit? And this question goes to Quentin, right? Because we grew up in the same house. What did you learn about being a man that you didn't question until you were grown?
Yeah, I would say, something that's common amongst men, right? We all learn the silent strength. Men are protectors and providers, uh, never showing weakness, right? And that's something that was, very instilled in our household. Our dad being a Marine. It's not that I question that. I just think there's more to it, right? Because as young men, we're often not shown, the how to get there when it comes to providing, protecting, or the hurt or the sacrifice that comes behind that. Um, and so that's just something I learned along the way in my journey, and also incorporating, that emotional literacy to be well-rounded, balanced, and being, eventually becoming a father. Um, that's a component that really matures and develops, I think, as you're raising children.
Yeah, I would agree. Like it specifically for us, like we were shown. I don't want to say like emotions weren't a thing growing up. I mean, I did a little episode on it already. You know, logic over empathy. You know what I'm saying? Like we were just trained, almost like we were raised to be in the military, right? Because that's where our dad came from. He came from a military household. Then he joined the military. We joined the military. So it was like he was already pre-wired to think a certain way, and you know, emotions kind of came second. Mission came first, right? And that's how we were raised. And that's one thing that growing up, like now that I'm, grown ass man, got two sons. Uh, that's one lesson that I don't say like kind of upset that we didn't really learn how to balance those emotions properly, but it is something that I recognized early, uh, before I became a father, and then I tried, and I still try every day to express to the boys that like as a man, it's okay to feel. You should have feelings. It's okay to get angry, be sad, happy, cry, all the things, right? It's just doing it in a safe and healthy way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it really resonates with me because one thing that I'm working on, consistently is something that I think a lot of men struggle with, and that's just getting rid of the idea that being vulnerable is a weakness, and a version of a man, a real man, has that emotional literacy.
Yeah. I agree. So I'm gonna open this up to everybody else. What parts of your upbringing are you proud to pass down?
Yeah, so I'll go first. The part of my upbringing that I'm proud to pass down is my spirituality. I was raised in a home based on faith. Um, I was raised by my grandmother, and so she instilled um, religion, but I don't just embrace religion. I'm more about relationship and about faith. And so I definitely took that upbringing of living in faith and believing in a higher power, which I represent as God to me. Um, that's important to have in your life. And so since that was my upbringing, I transcended that as well to my children. And listening to you two brothers, I didn't have my father in my life, but definitely I learned that emotional was something that wasn't just a part of being a man or being a young boy, you know? And so even though I didn't have my father in my life, I think that helped me to be a better father because I was intentional once I became a father. I was very intentional. Let me do better or be better than what I was presented or provided with. And so I definitely, when I had my first boy, I was real hard on him versus having my daughters. You know what I mean? So I had to learn there's no manual for this. You know what I mean? We all know that there's no manual for fatherhood, but we learn by trial and error. And so I definitely took the time to be intentional, like you said, Tim, about being a balance, saying it's okay to feel. With my boys, it's okay to feel, but I also need you to have that balance. Like I need you to also understand that you need to be strong because you are a man, but also showing my daughters the soft side. You know what I mean? Because I want them to, when it's time for them to get married, to find a man that has, like my brother said, emotional intelligence, emotional literacy. You know what I mean? Have a balance, have a good blend on that.
No, I agree. I definitely agree with that. I think when we say upbringing, we're talking about like childhood, like something we learned from our parents, right?
Yeah.
I would say, I know it's going to sound like real solemn or whatever, but I don't think that there's anything I learned from my parents that was healthy enough for me to give to my child in the world we live in today. I'll be honest with you, right? That's just me being honest.
Yes, sir.
I feel as if there are things that I've learned on my own by trial in error. Like, oh man, like, hey, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I shouldn't be this way. Because I mean, when I was growing up, right, it was like, oh, you a man. Well, you're a man after you have sex. And it's like, okay, well, the objectification of women should not be the keynote to whether or not I'm a man or not. You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't be like, oh, you ain't even do this yet. Like, no, like it should really, and sometimes that's where I struggle between like male and man. I feel like male is what I learned how to be, like a male, like species, vice maturation to excel to be a man. I learned that like through the discipline that the military has taught me, through people in my life that I've built a solid foundation with, that don't just tell me things I want to hear, but tell me things that I need to hear at the moment I need to hear it. I feel as if the hardest conversations I've had weren't when I didn't understand what was being said, but when I could reflect, take time, build resilience against things I didn't want to hear that just didn't drive me into an emotional tizzy, for lack of better terms, right? Being raised by a woman, that's what it used to be. If I didn't like what you said to me, then it was emotion, 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 emotion. I didn't take the time to be like, you know what you said is correct. And due to the fact that you said something that hurt, but was correct, I appreciate that more because it's actually causing me to grow more. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And like I said, there's no manual for this. You know what I mean? So we typically learn the trial and error.
Yeah.
What works, what doesn't work. And you know, I've been in a position as a father, I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, where I had to go to my children and be like, hey, I apologize. I could have did this better. So that's one thing I will say, and I know you didn't ask this question, but that's one thing I didn't learn, where I learned from my upbringing because they didn't do that often.
Well, I have a follow-up question for you.
Okay, my
Right?
bad.
What parts are you intentionally breaking?
Yeah, I'll say that. I'll add to that as a response. I don't remember my upbringing involving a lot of "I'm sorry" or "I could have did this better." So I'm intentional with that because I realize that our kids go through things too. And so we have to keep that in mind and be like, hey, you know what? Maybe I could have did this better, or I could have said this better. And I think it makes a difference when your children can hear from their daddy or their mommy, "I'm sorry."
Makes you human.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
I was about to say it makes you
You know what I'm
makes you
saying?
more personable.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I I tried to I don't know if it's really like I broke something or whatever, but I I tried to not have the boys grow up so quickly, not put too much responsibility on them so fast at a young age, right? Because and it could be one of those things where it was just the time and age where we lived in. You know what I'm saying? The responsibility of watching a younger sibling or having the only house key for when you come home from school, right? Uh, things like that. Because I feel like once you put a certain level of responsibility that's kind of sort of outside the scope of normal childhood shit, right? Like make sure you clean your room, put your dirty clothes away, things like that, right? That a kid should be doing so they can learn discipline in the ways. But then you add, like outside responsibilities of, well, okay, well, when you get home from school, I'm gonna need you to, baby, watch out for your little brother or sister, or like I need you to make sure dinner is halfway prepped, right? Like I don't feel like those are normal kid responsibilities. So when you start adding those outside responsibilities in there, it makes the kid have to mature faster than they're ready for. And you kind of steal their childhood from them because now they worried about other shit, right? And so like I've tried to hold on to the boys being kids. Just let them do kid shit. You know what I'm saying? Because a prime example would be Levi, right? Like Levi's 13 years old and he's into Beyblades. He'll sit here and tell you when the newest Beyblade is coming out, what country it came out in, all the things, right? Oh, it's this type of Beyblade. He knows all the specs to it, everything. You first saw it in episode 119 and blah 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 type stuff, right? But then I think back to what I was doing at 13 compared to what he's doing at 13. I appreciate the fact that he's into Beyblades, and he could tell me everything there is to tell me about a Beyblade. Because at 13, I wasn't doing that. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, it's like just thinking about that. I would feel like that's the one thing that I've intentionally done as a dad, is to allow my children to stay kids for as long as they can stay kids, while still teaching them what real world is going and what they're soon to step into. But I allow them to still be kids.
I commend you on that. I just want to say that because I have not, I learned to do that the hard way. I learned from the mistakes. And I guess that's probably because I was the oldest. And so I didn't have those I wasn't brought up that way. I was brought up as since I was the oldest, I took care of my younger siblings and more responsibilities. And so that I didn't break immediately. It broke after it was brought to my attention, like, hey, Dad, I want to be a kid. Or like, I didn't sign up for this. Like, I didn't have my younger brother. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I I I applaud you for that. I commend you for that. But like I said, there's no manual for this. But I did intentionally learn and try to break that part of, showing them I'm human.
Yeah.
Your daddy is not perfect. And so I apologize. I could have said this, but I could have did that better. So I commend you on that, Tim.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of that, Fred. Like, for me, one of the things is like really just showing my kids respect, and so, like you said, apologizing, acknowledging when I went wrong, and having conversations, and really ensuring that like my kids have a voice, and just kind of demonstrating how what respect looks like. There's no hierarchy of I'm your boss or I'm dictating to you or anything like that. And so I think it allows them as they continue to grow to have that self accountability, but also demand and have boundaries with other people and really know what respect looks like. So as a parent, being able to acknowledge your wrongs or have those conversations, I think it's huge.
Yeah. No, I definitely understand that. I think for me, it would be the emotional distance, if that makes sense. It's like I don't ever want my kids to wonder how I feel about them. I mean, like you shouldn't have to provide yourself reassurance for how your dad feels about them. You know what I mean? Like you should know, right? And I feel as if growing up, I questioned if I was even cared for. You know what I mean? Like, yo, do you even care about me? You know what I'm saying? And I don't want that for my kids, right? Because when you don't, when you wonder if somebody cares about you, you go and try and find that fulfillment in other things, places, and people.
Yep.
Right. And it's not a healthy way to do it. Right. Because like me, I'm an avoidant. I have an avoidant attachment style. I obviously suffer from abandonment issues, and all of that could have been corrected if the attachment was given to the point to where it was instilled instead of guessed. You know what I mean? I had to guess. Like, oh, do you like me today? Am I worth the conversation today? Am I worth the hey, you did a great job, the affirmation, those things that you would normally get. So to me, that's one of the things that I feel as if intentionally breaking. I tell Ari every single time I see her, every single day I have her, I tell her all the time, like, you're the best things ever happened to me. Like you'll never guess it. Right? You got it. So that's it.
Well, Julius, I just want to let you know, I love you, bro.
Love you too.
And I care about you.
It's real somber a little bit,
No.
but I mean that's true though, right? Like you really want your kids to know, like, yo, I like you, like you're good. For lack of
100%.
better terms, I fuck with you. You tough.
Yeah. And sometimes I tell Cole I don't like him. Just to keep him humble.
just to keep it balanced.
Yeah,
you gotta keep it balanced.
Sometimes you gotta keep
that's true.
Keep him humble a little bit.
Yeah.
Not to switch topics or whatever, but just to keep the conversation chugging along here. All three of y'all are raising daughters as well as sons, right? So I need to ask this to the girl dads. How does legacy shift when you're raising a young woman What does your daughter need from you that your son might not? And are you teaching your daughters what to expect from them, from men, or are you just telling them? And the last part of the question, I know it's a lot.
Yeah,
So if you don't remember, I got you. But does any of your daughters see your softness?
I'll start this off. I'll just say the different. I think you asked the difference between legacy. How does it shift when raising a daughter versus a son? I think for me, I think most of us can relate to this. It's just setting the standard for how your daughter is going to be treated by the world. And so, yeah, it's like to that point. It's not like dictating. It's through modeling that behavior. And so, for me, it's being intentional, really thinking about how you're approaching her, my daughter Mila. It's just every encounter is an opportunity to kind of show her how she should be treated.
Yeah, I love that answer. And you use the word that I would use, modeling, being an example for my daughter, showing my daughter what love looks like from a man. And then I think it's also important for your children to see how your daddy's supposed to be loved. So it's very important when we in these relationships with our wives or whatever our significant others that our children sees that being modeled between both parents. And so legacy between my daughters and my sons was a little bit different for me because I knew that my daughters would grow up and become wives at some point. And so I knew that they would, marry and maybe lose my last name. I look at that as part of the legacy. But I have one daughter who's already married, and she actually kept her father's name as well. And so when she has her children, she's had already said that she would use both names. And I'm like, man, that's amazing because I always wanted a son. And it took me 3 times before I had my first son. And so that was part of my legacy that I was very intentional about or concerned about. Um, but yeah, Quentin, like you said, man, I think it's very important as a dad to model the way our daughters should be treated. And we are the first example to instill that in them. You know what I mean? So I know there's other parts of the question, but I can't remember, but I'll let my brother go.
Yeah, I think for me, I set standards with my daughter, but I tailor expectations. My daughter is I do not want my daughter to look at a man and be like, well, you don't love me like my daddy loves me, and let that be the determination of her love. Because to me, that's not even, it's not even viable or visible or even something good enough for her to even thrive for or thrive on. Right. My job, my single job is to raise her good enough and then, for lack of better terms, sacrifice her to the world. Not sacrifice like a lamb, but like, hey, I've given you everything that you need. Now you have to go do the rest. Right. I'm here always for you to come back to. Right. But I've set the standard, I've tailored your expectations, and now it's up to you to do the rest. So like for an example would be, she never opens up a door, right? That's a standard, right? You're a girl, you will never open up a door. She doesn't open up the door to the house. She doesn't open up the door to the car. She doesn't open up the door leaving out where I live at. It's just not a thing, right? But the tailored expectation is that the reason, my example of tailored expectation would be, hey, you will always respect other women. You always respect yourself. You will never ever wear something that denigrates yourself or your being as a person, where you feel as if you have to project something outwardly in order for somebody to like you for who you are. Right. I will never ever. So for her, it's difficult, especially in the co-parenting realm, because I'm teaching her one thing and then I have to go and express to the other parent when she's at that home of like, hey, can you also help set the standard and tailor the expectations? And sometimes that gets jumbled, right? Sometimes when she comes back to me, I'm like, what happened? If I've been out to sea or I've been on travel doing my job, I come back and I'm like, what's happened? But at the end of the day, I feel as if raising a daughter single-handedly is one of the most challenging things I've done in my life, right? I've been in the Navy a long time. I have a son. Raising my son was easier. raising my daughter is like challenging.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about like mentally, emotionally. You know, the other day she was watching Netflix. There's this horse show on Netflix, and I just hear her crying in her room. So I walk in there and I'm like, "Hey, you all right?" She's like, "Yes, I'm just sad because Zoe's horse got taken away." Right now, obviously, I'm like, "Okay, baby, you want to talk about it? How did it make you feel?" You know, I want to like do that, right? Okay, all right, you know, but you understand that it's a movie, it's a show. Like you can feel that emotion. What did it make you feel like? So I'm diving deeper. Oh, well, it made me feel as if this and this and that. And I'm like, okay, cool. Next time you have that emotion, I want you to express it the same exact way. Well, I can't really do that. I was like, no, you can. You have the safe space to do that. And if you need time, you can walk away and say, I need time to focus on this. That's setting a standard for your life and tailoring your expectation. I'm not going to run to your bedside and be like, oh my God, what happened? No, let me fix it all for you. Nope, you fix it. Let me know how you feel about it and then build your bridges in order to get through it again. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I like that. So the other part of the question, if you guys forgot, because I know I just said a whole bunch of words at one time.
Yeah.
But I feel like you guys kind of, all three of you guys kind of hit on this question. But are you teaching your daughters what to expect from men, or are you just telling them? And does your daughter see your soft?
Yeah, we all kind of touched on it. Absolutely. You know, we're modeling it, we're demonstrating it. And, you know, to have that emotional intelligence and, of course, our daughters see our softness.
I agree 100%.
Let me see. Does your daughter see your softness? I could be softer at times around her, but I think having a partner makes a man feel emotionally vulnerable to be softer. You know what I mean? Like if you have a wife or you have a girlfriend that you're steady with, sometimes it's easier for you to feel like, you know what, I can be vulnerable. Sometimes I don't feel like I can be that vulnerable with my daughter, right? Because she's not at that age to where she's an empathetic person, right? So if I cry in front of my daughter, she's going to feel the need to mimic the emotion. Yes. Like something has made my daddy feel this way. When I could possibly have that significant other to counteract that balance. So like if I do sometimes, when I do cry, I don't think I've ever cried around my daughter, to be honest with you. I don't think I've ever done it, right? And that could be a slight on me, but I do it in private, but then share the emotion with her. But like when I walk through that door, I pick her up from school, my work day is left in the car. My other stuff is left in the car. Whatever I got going on in my personal life is left in the car because I only get a certain amount. I only have a 50% of the time. So in that 50%, I'm trying to do 100% of the work that she needs in her life with half of the time. Does that make sense? So it's like I got to kind of prioritize what she's going to get at the level that she's at, right? As she'll be 7 this year. I think I can show her bits and pieces now, but not to the level to where if like I was still with her mother, it would be a different show. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, but
Because I
one
want
thing
to
I
be
will
trying to
say,
do it all.
one thing I will say, Julius, to your point,
Yeah, yeah.
I think softness is subjective, right? Because you can, you know, as a man, you know, especially like you could still, have that strong face and everything like that. But the fact that you're still circling back and, you know, sharing your emotions,
Yeah.
that's still a soft side, right? And so,
Oh, that makes sense. True.
yeah. So I want to make sure you give yourself more credit there.
I like that.
Yeah, true. Appreciate that.
So I want to pivot and ask 2 questions for you, okay? For our sons, are we teaching strength without emotional awareness? Or are we raising leaders or just survivors?
Leaders, man. We're raising our sons past, and I'm not speaking for everybody, but I know on this podcast, just knowing your guys' character and what you guys stand for, we're moving past just the generation of enduring things. We're raising leaders, men, who understands the power that comes from the ability to connect, empathize, and not just the ability to dominate. emotional intelligence, maturity, respect, honor, courage, and commitment. I think it plays a big role in just, raising somebody who can endure life. We're raising leaders.
Absolutely. And I second that. I'm definitely being intentional with teaching my son strength, but also making him sure he understands the importance and the value of emotional intelligence. Like, it's okay to feel what you feel, but in that feeling, also embracing the strength, meaning that you can overcome your emotions. Don't let your emotions overcome you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's okay to feel what you feel. And in leaders, man, I'm definitely taking full advantage of trying to be intentional with that because I don't want my son to be a follower. And if he's going to be a follower, follow a good leader to where you can learn those leadership qualities so that you can eventually lead well, So yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I think a quote from Les Brown, right? Um, I am a creature with emotions, but I do not let my emotions run who I am as a creature. Right? It's like that's real life. You know what I mean? Like you can have an emotional reaction to anything, but as a man, what I mean? Like as a boy, you gotta you gotta react a little bit different, than you have. And definitely leaders or survivors, 100% agree. I think we're all, you know, raising leaders. I think the ultimate strength of leadership is subservient leadership, right? I lead to serve others, right? In my leadership, I'm still being served. I'm still serving others. I'm still servicing something. Um, I don't ever want my son to forget that you're leading for a purpose. Right? You're just not leading the blind. I don't want that. Right? Like we've all had leaders like that in our life, right? Where it's like you have no idea where you're going. You're just leading, and the way you're leading, you're going to put us in a position that we don't want to be in an extremist position. So I definitely think leaders and not survivors. But I agree with what Quentin said. I think growing up, that's how we were shaped, right? Survive every single day, survive, check to check, survive this way, survive that way. And it's just, it no longer applies to us.
Yeah, I would agree to that as well. And to answer the first part, because I feel like everybody answered the second part of the question, but I would like to think that I'm not teaching my son's strength without emotional awareness. Like I am showing them strength with the emotional awareness because I know what it's like to be the person that has strength, but lacks the emotional awareness of how my strength could negatively impact somebody else that may be going through something because of my lack of empathy or, the emotional awareness because, that's what it says, right? But it's like, I've been in that position as not just a leader, but as a partner in a relationship to where I think I'm trying to hold both of us down and be strong, but in all actuality, I'm pushing her emotions to the side. And what am I really? I'm not really doing anything. You know what I'm saying? I'm not being a good partner for one, but that I'm not. I wasn't really setting a good example for my sons at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Recognizing my own fault in that, I worked very hard to teach my sons emotional awareness and how to read the room and things of that nature. I feel like we kind of beat that one. But to shift the tone slightly, I just want to be honest, right? Like, ask a question, where are we falling short as fathers? Not society or not, other dads, but us here in this room right now. Like, are we modeling emotional intelligence or just toughness? Do our kids see us apologize? And do you think they feel safe failing in front of us? I'll start because I know for a fact that's, I'm not going to say Levi doesn't feel safe failing in front of me, but he's afraid to fail because he doesn't want to let me down. And it has like trying to explain to him the, you know, every failure is a lesson learned, and you can't look at it as a failure. You have to look at it as a lesson learned instead. So I tried to change that language and stop using the word failure and say, you know, like we're it's a lesson to that we're learning a lesson. But I don't know if it's necessarily he feels unsafe, but I know that there's a like a maybe he gets a little anxious or I don't know the word I'm really looking for, but he's told me that he I guess maybe it is unsafe. If you're afraid of something, that means you're not safe, right? Or you don't feel safe if you have a fear. But his fear is with failure is me being disappointed and like him me feeling like he let me down. So I don't know if that's like him feeling unsafe or whatever, but my kids definitely do see me apologize. I apologize to them when I know maybe my jokes go too far, or if I give them my word that I'm going to show up to something, and you know, let's say something comes up or whatever, and I can't make it. I do make sure I take the time out to apologize to them, and I prefer to apologize to them. If I am going to apologize to them, I prefer to do it face to face so we can have that man to man conversation, and they can see that it's a sincere apology, and I'm not just, you know, saying words out of my mouth to make them feel good.
Yeah.
And as well as like if I have like let's say me and their mom has a miscommunication, I like to apologize in front of them as well so that they can hear that too. Or me and my wife, you know, have a little spat or maybe a miscommunication. I make sure that they witness that as well, so that they can understand the dynamic of being in a partnership, uh, and see that, you know, you still should apologize, like recognize your own faults and apologize in your partnerships as well.
I think I'll say this, and I mentioned earlier, there's no manual to this, but I'll say I have failed with my children because I always wanted to give my children an example of a love between their mother and father, a solid, strong family. I wanted, when I got married, it was never intended to be divorce. That was never the intention. And it was important for me to, that was my goal, was to give them that. And I feel like I felt them in that because I've been married not only once, but twice. And they both ended in divorce. So like I said, there's no manual to this. So I am learning from the things that I see that, or the things that I suggest that I failed them in, and being intentional with saying, I love you, and still showing their mother respect and letting them know that this is reality. Not all relationships will be successful and last forever. Some relationships just simply don't work out. And so I don't want to teach them something that's not real. So I'm actually thankful that it didn't last, because it gives them an understanding that, hey, I might get in a relationship where things just don't work out. But that doesn't mean that we can't still co-parent. That doesn't mean we can't still respect each other. That don't mean that we can't still love each other, but we're just in different places. And so I'm just intentional with showing them that I am human. And I'll also take the time to say, I'm sorry.
No, I'll say this to you, Fred, right?
Yes.
About the feeling like you failed by getting a divorce.
Mm.
So I felt like that at first, but then this is what I realized, right? I didn't fail my children because I divorced their mother. If anything, I taught them a lesson, right? And the lesson to be had is, you know, to my opinion, is that it's okay to have love somebody, to have love for somebody. Mm, mm, but that doesn't mean you have to be in a relationship with them. Because sometimes just whatever you do is not going to work. You're not meant to be. And that's okay. And you're showing them, right, that even though I'm not with your mother, like you said, right, I still respect her.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I feel like sometimes that's what people, they get a little fucked up, right? They divorce, and then it's like, you know, one side is like fuck you, the other side is like fuck you, and it's drama in the middle. Even if you are not even married, right? Because sometimes it happens with two people that have a child together, and they're like, I don't think we should be in a relationship, but the other person is holding on to something, right? So there's resentment and hatred, but it's like you still try to be the bigger person and show your child like, hey, even though this person says these things about me, or maybe they don't treat me the best, I'm still going to respect them because that's the right thing to do. That's how you still maintain being a good person, right? But don't ever think because you divorced your child's mother that you failed. It's not a failure at all. It's sometimes people just don't work. And if you explain it to them like that, because that's how I had to explain it to Levi and Coach, you know, like me and your mom, we could be good friends, but I don't think we should have ever became more than the friends, right? Like we probably should have just stayed friends and not became husband and wife, because once we became husband and wife, that's when everything got bad. But out of the relationship, I'm blessed to have you as a product of that relationship, because without that, I wouldn't be a dad. You know what I'm saying? And it's the same for you. Without those, even though it's a failed relationship, you would not have the kids you had if it wasn't for those failed relationships, right?
Absolutely.
So sometimes through tragedy, there's still a blessing. You know what I mean?
Facts. Appreciate that.
Anybody else got anything? Or we good?
So if we're talking about like failures,
No, not really failures, but like, you know, yeah. Are we falling short as fathers? You know, are we modeling emotional intelligence or just toughness? You already said that your kids see you apologize, and
yeah.
then
Well, if I'm being honest,
do
right,
they
I think
feel safe failing in front of you?
yeah, like if I'm being honest, I think most of us can relate to this, right? I think given our background, our childhood, our careers and things, modeling, we model toughness, that comes easy, right? And I've spoken a lot here today about like emotional intelligence and stuff and into that light. And I have to be real intentional with that. Because toughness comes first, it's easy for me, right? And so, sometimes, if we're being honest, I will have to circle back after, I think about it. I'm like, oh, like I really didn't connect on an emotional level and, go deeper. And so it's just always constantly reflecting and being intentional on that emotional front. And that's something that I just struggle with, just given my background, my nature. And so I have to be real intentional with that. And, sometimes you don't always get it right, but I think being consistent and being self-aware of that, you know, will lead to success. So it's just a challenge. It's a struggle, if I'm being honest.
No, I agree. And only last thing for apology, I had to, which I still struggle with, is sometimes I apologize to my daughter and my son, and then I'll do the same thing again. So it's kind of like an empty apology. So I really try to fill that emptiness with change, so that way I don't repeat the same mistake, right? And then have to apologize for the same thing over and over, because then that teaches them forgiveness about a repeated offender. Right? Which is not good, right?
Yeah.
For my daughter, it's not good. For my son, it's not good, because you're going to meet people in your life that are repeated offenders and will use your kindness as your weakness. And I don't want them to have that. I want them to be able to say, okay, you apologize. Please do not do it again. And when they do it again, they have the emotional intelligence to say, this is not healthy for me,
Mm.
because my father would not apologize and do it again. My mother would not apologize and do it again. And if those people can do it, then technically anybody can do it, because I have the example of it being done. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Makes a lot of sense.
I like that. So I want to say something out loud that I don't always say. When I was diagnosed with cancer, what my biggest fear was, and it still is. One of my biggest fears is that one day I'll leave this earth and I won't have shown Levi and Cole everything they need to be successful, not just in school or careers, but in life, right? Like I mentioned in the beginning. But I fear that I haven't taught them enough about who they are and where they come from, that I haven't shown them how to fully embrace their melanin, their culture, and their identity, because it is okay to be black. It's okay to be black and not fit into any stereotype. And for them to know that they don't have to act a certain way to be accepted. Just being who they are is just powerful enough. I also fear that maybe I haven't shown them enough that it's okay to hurt. It's okay to cry as a man. It's okay to feel deeply. Being emotional doesn't make you weak. It makes you a human. That real strength is knowing how to feel and still move forward. And, sometimes I'm hard on my boys, but it's because I'm afraid I'm running out of time. Do you guys ever feel that pressure that you may not have enough time to teach everything?
Yeah, and before I even respond to that, I want to just say this, Tim, personally from me to you, and I'm sure everybody here can relate to this. Fathers matter, and Black fathers are doing a big thing, even though we may not always get the recognition. So I want you to know I love you, and I'm proud of you, and what you're doing right now is contributing to your legacy. These podcasts, I wrote books, and this stuff will still be here when you're gone, that our children will have access to be able to see and be like, oh man, my dad was doing this podcast. He met with other young fathers and trust me, no man knows how much time he has left. But I thank God that cancer scare did not take you out and has brought you to what you're doing today and what you're going to do tomorrow and the next week. Guess what? I didn't meet my father until I was 38 years old. And one thing he told me is a quote that I will never forget, that even though we didn't meet until I was 38 years old, we will maximize the time that we have left. And so I just want to encourage you, even though you may not know how much time you have left, maximize it. Be intentional with it. And we are not perfect, but I am so proud of fathers who take fatherhood seriously, because we are making a difference beyond our own children. You are making a difference in my life, and you not my father, but because I can see you as a father and as a man. My brother here, my brother Quentin over there, we are impacting each other to a place where we should be honored and proud of ourselves. And we don't hear it enough, but I'm proud of you, man. And I want you to be encouraged to continue on this path of what you're doing. And so I don't know what the question was, but that's what I had to get off my chest to you. That's my response.
I appreciate that, Fred.
Yeah, 100%. I think fatherhood's a blessing, and hey, bro, like that cancer scare, um, really, really shook some things around, and I'm sure that after that you really have a different perspective on life. And I just want to let you know too as well. I look up to you, and I'm happy. I'm happy that you are so engaged with your boys. You put them first, and you're an amazing father.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, 100%, right? I mean, I come to you 99.87% of the time. The other 0.13, I'm trying to just figure it out on my own. Sometimes it ends good. Sometimes it don't end bad. But no, 100%, man. I feel as if, that pressure that you're talking about, I think for you, it hits because you have an example, like, like that pressure firsthand. Like, hey, I don't know. The I don't know is just scary, the unknown. I don't really know how to capture that because I know one day I'll be gone. I just don't know what the day is because I've never had something scare me that bad to be like, oh, I don't know what that day is or where that day comes from. And when I did, I didn't have children. Right? Like it was like, all right, it's just me. If I go, I go. But I feel as if when I hear you talk about it, it always refocuses me, I guess we could say, puts me back on the path to be like, man, like, hey, it's still going. Like time is still ticking and we still got time left. But with this time left, like Fred said, we're going to maximize that. Right. And then we're going to surround ourselves with people that also teach us how to maximize that time and not waste that time, because that's the only thing we can't get back. You know what I mean? I agree. Yeah, that pressure's real.
All right. So I got some like quick, short answers. All right.
Rapid fire.
Rapid fires. Two questions. Since all of you have daughters, what is one thing you hope she remembers about you?
I'll go first.
Short answers only.
I'll go first. Unconditional love. She, I
That's a good
want Mila
response.
to remember that she never had to earn my love. She never had to perform or be a certain way. Unconditional love.
I like that.
Yeah, my response was similar to that, was just no doubt that the daddy loved her. She don't have to question that at all.
That her father believed in her strength, her intelligence, and her worth.
That was deep. Like it. And for your son, right? What's one thing you hope they surpass you in?
Yeah, for me, I hope Quentin Jr. surpasses me in self-awareness, and he starts off as a young man, way ahead of me, and doesn't have to go through this 37-year journey to figure himself out.
Yeah, for me, I can't narrow it down to anything specific, but I have been intentional with telling my son, I just want you to be better than me. That's it. And so whatever that might look like to him, if he can say I tried and I did my best, that's good enough for me.
I hope that my son surpasses me in his faith in the Lord.
I would say for both of the boys, I just hope they surpass me in like their self-confidence, believing in their ability to do anything. And, legacy isn't built at the end of your life. It's built in everyday moments, in how you handle anger, how you love, how you apologize, and how you show up tired, but you still show up. Our kids don't need perfect fathers. They need present ones. And if our sons become more emotionally aware than we were, if our daughters expect better than what we were taught to accept, then I think it's safe to say we've done our jobs, because legacy isn't what you leave, it's what you live. Until then, take care of yourself, and remember, no matter what you're going through or the challenges you're facing, your roots are stronger than you think. Thanks for joining us.